Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. If you like all things true crime, if you like it delivered in a peaceful, tranquil manner, if you like it clear and concise without drama, then I highly recommend you subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please smash the like button. It's a free way you can help. And now, without further ado, let's dig in. Jay Slater's family and a lot of media outlets have criticized TikTokers and YouTubers covering Jay's case. Creators have been accused of being the ones who turned this case into a conspiracy-riddled nightmare, and some of the criticism is deserved. And some creators are more guilty than others of stoking the fires of conspiracy theories. However, this case was ripe for conspiracy theories from day one because of certain facts, and mainstream media was right there in the mix, sharing certain details that threw a match on the logs of the conspiracy fire and set it ablaze. It's not just TikTokers and YouTubers who bought into the conspiracy theories. Some mainstream reporters and outlets are equally to blame. Let's talk about it. Fact 1. The missing person and/or victim, 19-year-old Jay Slater, posted a Snapchat while in the car to the remote Airbnb in Mosca, Tenerife, with Ayub Qasim, another shadowy guy named Rocky. In his Snapchat post, Jay clearly confessed to taking an expensive Audemars Piguet, I believe it's pronounced, watch off someone during the NRG Music Festival, meaning Jay stole it off someone and he was on his way to sell it. By posting that Snapchat, Jay began the story of his own disappearance on conspiracy-rich soil. I mean, of course, true crime creators were going to run with this detail and consider whether or not a pricey stolen watch could be motive to make this kid go poof in the night. Had Jay not sent that Snapchat, it's possible no one would ever have heard about a stolen watch. Fact 2. Jay Slater wasn't exactly a pristine, lily-white choir boy. Unfortunately for his case, Jay had a serious criminal past. Shortly after Jay went missing, it emerged that he'd been convicted as part of an 8-thug-strong gang who'd subjected a fellow teenager, Tom Hilton, to what can only be described as a brutal attack. Hilton suffered a split skull, as well as injuries to his shoulders and legs, after being hit with a machete, an axe, and golf clubs. That attack sounds so similar to what I believe 19-year-old Noah Presgrove was subjected to. Hilton was lucky to survive, and during legal proceedings for the crime, Jay Slater was said to have, quote, laughed his way through the trial, end quote. He doesn't sound like a very charming lad. But yes, people can change over time. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Jay ended up with an 18-month community order, which included 25 days worth of rehabilitation activities. If Hilton had died, it's possible Jay would have been in prison instead of at the NRG festival. You dig what I'm saying? Some people criticized creators for bringing up Jay's role in this violent attack. But guess what? It was relevant because it hinted at Jay falling in with the wrong crowd, a rough crowd willing to take a machete to another human being. Jay could very well have been hanging out with more criminal types in Tenerife, which could have been a factor in his going missing. And in fact, Jay was hanging out with criminal types in Tenerife, which brings me to fact 3. Fact 3. The 30-something guy who drove Jay to the Airbnb in Mosca and who was among the last people to see Jay alive, Ayub Qasim, ain't no pristine choir boy either. In fact, his criminal past is as serious as Jay's, if not worse. Ayub was jailed 9 years ago for masterminding an operation to flood Wales with Class A drugs. We're talking about things like heroin and the white powdery stuff that some people stick up their noses and others smoke. And Ayub was jailed for 9 years for this crime. Listen, you spend more than, say, 5 years in prison, and you will likely become a more hardened criminal than you were when you went in. I know somebody who spent 10 years in prison, and he came out a totally different person. So, Jay's case wasn't exactly helped by having this convicted drug dealer be the guy who spent time with Jay on the day he vanished. Of course, true crime creators and mainstream media were going to report about this connection. This is one of the details that skyrocketed Jay's case into the true crime conspiracy stratosphere. Had Jay not opted to hang out with Ayub and Rocky, maybe his disappearance would not have seemed so suspicious. Fact 4. British police sleuth Mark Williams Thomas is perhaps the person who stoked the fires of conspiracy to the greatest extent. We can thank Williams Thomas for helping spread the story about the stolen watch. Williams Thomas reported that info. He is also the person who said in a video that was recorded on July 2nd and then uploaded to X, quote, "We've received information that would suggest that Jay left the rental property feeling scared, and he would not return to the rental, even though that would have been the most sensible course of action." End quote. How do you think TikTokers and YouTube creators reacted when they heard that? That very long, juicy sentence, rife with mystery and intrigue. We all went running with this, took it as a very important detail in Jay's disappearance. This made sense to us as well, because fear was the only thing that could explain why Jay would opt to take an 11-hour hike through treacherous terrain instead of A, waiting for Ayub to drive him back to Los Cristianos, or B, waiting 2 hours for a bus back there, or C, walking along the paved road back to Los Cristianos. Along the road, Jay might have been able to hail a ride back to his hotel. Fear is really the only rational explanation for why a kid who had to have been exhausted from partying for 3 days straight, who was dehydrated and without any water on him, who left the Airbnb without a charged cell phone, even though he was offered a charger there, and who was wearing only a t-shirt and shorts with regular shoes as opposed to hiking boots, decided to skip the bus and instead step off the main road and into a vast, lonely landscape full of cacti and rocky cliffs for a many-hour hike under the hot sun. Fear and fear alone. So yeah, Williams Thomas's sentence led to a ton of speculation. Mark Williams Thomas, who is known in Britain for his involvement in high-profile missing persons cases, he's not a TikToker or a YouTuber. Fact 5. The Sun newspaper wrote this about Jay Slater's disappearance. Quote, "The Sun has been given the name of a Brit gangster said to be involved in the watch trade there, who has mutual friends with Jay and his group." End quote. People don't think the Sun mentioning a Brit gangster didn't fuel conspiracy theories? Please. That shit was like pouring gasoline on the fire, man. Fact 6. Even the well-respected BBC played a role in stoking the conspiracy fire. After a body was found in that deep ravine in Moscow, the BBC published an article saying this, quote, "On Monday, it was announced that a body was found in a ravine in the remote Moscow region of Tenerife, alongside Jay's possessions and clothes." Yes, they used the wording that a body was found in a ravine alongside Jay's possessions and clothing. How do you interpret the wording here? To me, it implies that Jay was found without his breeches, with his clothing and possessions alongside him. A lot of people ran with this, saying Jay's clothes were not on his body. I would really like the Guardia Civil in Tenerife to clarify that once and for all, because you can't imply that a missing person was found with his clothes not on him, but rather alongside him, and expect people not to speculate that perhaps Jay was thrown off the cliff and his clothes were placed alongside him. If Jay suffered an accidental fall from a significant height and died pretty much instantaneously, as has been suggested by various newspapers who've said that the autopsy report gave Jay's mother, Debbie Duncan, some small comfort, thinking that Jay didn't lie there injured for days on end, waiting for someone to rescue him and no one ever showing up. And if his clothes were found alongside him, are you saying Jay was hiking without his clothes on him amidst all that sharp cacti, and then when he stepped off the cliff or slid off the cliff into the ravine, was carrying his clothes and they just so happened to land alongside him? I mean, come on, of course there's going to be conspiracy theories about this. All these strange details, when put together, definitely make for a lot of speculation. And it's going to be wild speculation because Jay was sort of wild. His criminal choices in the past and present were wild, right? It's not just social media that created all the conspiracy stuff. It's Jay's own life, his choices, the people he chose to hang out with, the behaviors he boasted about on Snapchat. Yes, I vacillate on this case every day. Sometimes it looks like an unfortunate accident, an accident brought about by a young man's poor choices. On other days, when I read things like his clothes and possessions were found alongside him, well, on those days I pause and I think, well, maybe, as crazy as it sounds, this could have been some sort of retribution for Jay's own bad behavior. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories. Hey, do me a favor, smash that like button!